Sophia adjusted her white uniform for the third time in front of the elevator mirror. Her heart raced as the floor numbers climbed slowly to the penthouse of the most luxurious building in New York. Her hands were sweaty, and she tried to convince herself that she was ready for this challenge. She had to be. At just 28 years old and with a 6-year-old daughter to raise, she couldn't afford to waste this opportunity. The salary offered was 3 times higher than her last job as a nursing technician at the public hospital. Plus, the service apartment included in the package meant she no longer had to worry about overdue rent. The elevator doors opened directly into a grand foyer where a tall, elegant woman awaited her. Margaret Thompson, the housekeeper, had perfectly styled grey hair in a bun and a posture that exuded authority. "Punctual. Good start," said Margaret, glancing at her wristwatch. "Follow me. I'll show you your duties." Sophia followed her through hallways decorated with artwork that seemed worth more than everything she owned. Her white sneakers, bought especially for the occasion, made a soft sound against the marble floor. "As you were informed, Mr. Lucas Montgomery suffered a severe accident 8 months ago. Since then, he has remained in a vegetative state. Our job is to ensure he receives the best possible care," Margaret explained, stopping in front of a pair of dark wooden doors. Sophia nodded, recalling the job interview and the documents she had signed. Lucas Montgomery, 35, a successful tech entrepreneur, had been in a helicopter accident. The doctors didn't hold much hope for his recovery. Margaret opened the door, revealing a spacious and sophisticated room transformed into a full-fledged home ICU. The most advanced medical equipment contrasted with the elegant decor, and there in the center of it all was him. Sophia felt a tightness in her chest as she looked at the man lying in the hospital bed. Despite his current state, his beauty was undeniable. His strong facial features remained intact, though his beard needed trimming. His dark hair, now slightly longer, framed a serene face as if he were merely sleeping. "Your shift will be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with a 2-hour break. On Sundays, you'll work only half a day," Margaret continued, showing her a detailed schedule on a clipboard. "It's essential to maintain the timing of medications and procedures. Everything is documented here." Sophia absorbed every piece of information attentively, though her eyes couldn't completely stray from Lucas. There was something about him that intrigued her, an energy that didn't match the doctor's pessimistic diagnosis. "Any questions?" Margaret asked after explaining all the protocols. "No, ma'am, you can count on me," Sophia replied firmly. "Great. I'll let you familiarize yourself with the environment. The service room is at the end of the hallway. You can settle in after your shift." As soon as Margaret left, Sophia approached the bed. The monitors emitted their rhythmic beeps, the only music in the otherwise silent room. She checked the vitals, adjusted the IV, and organized the materials she would use throughout the day. "Good morning, Mr. Montgomery," she said softly as she prepared the supplies for his morning hygiene. "My name is Sophia, and starting today I will be taking care of you." She didn't expect a response, but something inside her told her he could hear her. It was an inexplicable feeling, an intuition that made her want to talk to him as if he were conscious. As she carried out her tasks with care and professionalism, Sophia spoke about the sunny day outside, about the flowers she had seen in the building's garden. Her soft voice filled the silence of the room with a different energy. What she didn't know was that, hidden behind one of the large curtains in the hallway, a small figure was watching everything with curious eyes. Her daughter, Lily, had managed to slip past the building's security and had climbed up unnoticed, eager to see her mother's new workplace. Sophia finished her morning duties with the same dedication she had started with. She adjusted the pillows, checked the room's temperature, and organized the equipment. Before sitting in the armchair next to the bed to jot down the necessary notes, she gently ran her hand through Lucas's hair. "We'll do everything we can to make you comfortable," she murmured, more to herself than to him. At that moment, a small noise caught her attention. She turned quickly, but the hallway was empty. Lily had managed to escape unseen, taking with her the first of many secret adventures she would have in that place. The first week of work flew by, and Sophia had already established a comfortable routine. Every morning, After dropping Lily off at school, she would head up to the penthouse with a growing sense of purpose. What had started as just a job was turning into something more meaningful. On that particular morning, as she organized the medications, Sophia noticed an unusual movement in the curtains. She smiled discreetly, pretending not to notice the little intruder who had once again managed to bypass the building's security. "Mr. Montgomery," she said aloud, maintaining her composure, "today I'll read you some news from the paper. They say it's important to keep people updated, even when they seem like they're not listening." A muffled giggle came from the direction of the curtain, and Sophia had to restrain herself from laughing too. Lily was becoming bolder in her secret visits. "But first," Sophia continued, "I need to tell you something funny that happened today. You see, I have a 6-year-old daughter, very clever, by the way. So clever that sometimes I think she believes she can hide behind the curtains without anyone noticing." The silence that followed was broken by a crystal-clear laugh, and Lily finally emerged from her hiding spot, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment and amusement. "How did you know I was here, Mum?" Sophia dropped her professional demeanor for a moment and opened her arms to her daughter, who ran into her embrace. "Mums have superpowers, remember? But Lily, you know you can't keep sneaking in here. It's against the rules. But Mom, it's so boring being alone after school, and this place is so beautiful. It's like a castle." Lily looked around with wide-eyed wonder, then fixed her gaze on Lucas. "He's like a sleeping prince, isn't he?" Sophia felt her heart tighten at her daughter's innocence. "Yes, sweetheart, but this is my workplace. We can't—" "Please, Mom, I promise I'll be quiet. I can even help you take care of him." Lily was already by the bed, looking at Lucas with genuine curiosity. Sophia knew she should be firm, but something about the scene touched her deeply. Her daughter, usually so shy around strangers, seemed completely at ease here. "All right," Sophia sighed, "but just for today, and you have to promise you'll behave." Lily's face lit up with a smile. "Can I tell him a story? My teacher said I'm the best storyteller in the class." Sophia hesitated for a moment, but nodded. "After all, what harm could it do?" "All right, but keep your voice down." Lily pulled a chair close to the bed and began narrating her own version of Sleeping Beauty, replacing the princess with a prince, and adding her own details that made Sophia smile as she went about her tasks. What neither of them noticed was the slight movement of Lucas's fingers, so subtle it could have been just imagination. Lily's cheerful, childish voice filled the room with a different energy, transforming the hospital environment into something more welcoming. The hours passed. Quickly, and soon it was time for Lily to go home with the nanny waiting for her downstairs. Before leaving, the little girl approached Lucas and whispered, "I'll come back tomorrow to finish the story, okay?" Sophia walked her daughter to the elevator, giving precise instructions to the nanny. When she returned to the room, she noticed something different in the atmosphere. She couldn't quite explain it, but there was a subtle change in the air. She approached Lucas to check his vitals and adjust his position, as she regularly did. While performing the procedures, she began speaking softly. "Sorry for the unexpected intrusion, Mr. Montgomery. Lily is just like that, a little whirlwind of joy. Sometimes I think she has the gift of lighting up any room she enters." Sophia could have sworn she saw a slight movement in Lucas's lips, as if he wanted to smile. But she convinced herself it was just her imagination, fueled by the day's exhaustion. The sun began to set, painting the room with orange hues. Sophia organized the final details before the night shift nurse arrived. As she packed her bag, she couldn't stop thinking about the story Lily had told. Her daughter had turned Lucas into a charming prince, waiting to awaken. Who knows, Sophia thought, maybe fairy tales hold a bit of truth. What she didn't imagine was that this seemingly ordinary afternoon would be the start of a series of events that would forever change the lives of everyone involved. Lily's secret visits, which were supposed to be just an isolated moment, were about to become a catalyst for much bigger changes than anyone could have predicted. September arrived, bringing a milder breeze to New York. Sophia completed her first month of work, and Lily's visits had become a shared secret between mother and daughter. The little girl appeared 3 times a week, always after school, bringing her storybooks and a contagious energy that seemed to transform the environment. On that particular afternoon, as Sophia prepared Lucas's bath, Lily was sitting in her usual chair, drawing in her notebook. "Mum, can I show my drawing to Uncle Lucas?" Lily asked, holding up a colorful sheet. Sophia smiled at how naturally her daughter referred to the patient. "Of course, sweetie, but afterward I need to give him his bath, okay?" Lily approached the bed, holding the drawing at Lucas's eye level. "Look, Uncle Lucas, I drew the three of us at the park. When you wake up, we can go there for real. There's a really cool carousel." Sophia was checking the water temperature when she heard an unusual sound from the monitors. She turned quickly and noticed a slight change in Lucas's vitals. "What's wrong, Mum?" Lily asked, noticing the shift in Sophia's expression. "Nothing, sweetie," Sophia replied, trying to stay calm as she moved closer to observe. "How about you go do your homework while I take care of Uncle Lucas's bath?" Lily nodded, returning to her chair with the drawing in her hands. Sophia began the bathing procedures with extra care, observing every little detail. As she passed the warm sponge over Lucas's arm, something extraordinary happened. His fingers moved slightly, almost imperceptibly, but Sophia was sure of what she had seen. "Mr. Montgomery," she called softly, her heart racing. "Can you hear me?" The movement repeated, this time a bit more visible. Sophia held her breath, years of professional experience telling her not to get her hopes up too soon, but her heart saying something entirely different. "Mom, Uncle Lucas moved his hand," exclaimed Lily, who had quietly approached. "Yes, sweetheart." "He did," Sophia replied, her voice trembling slightly. "But let's keep this a secret for now, okay? Sometimes these things happen, and we need to be sure before telling anyone." The rest of the bath was carried out with extreme care and attention. Sophia watched every muscle, every expression, searching for more signs. When she finished, she sat by the bed and began making detailed notes in her report. "Mom," Lily whispered, "do you think it was because of my drawing?" Sophia looked at her daughter, seeing hope shining in her eyes. "Maybe, my love. Sometimes people need special reasons to want to wake up." That night, after putting Lily to bed, Sophia couldn't sleep. She turned over every detail of the day in her mind, every little movement she had observed. Her experience as a nursing technician told her to be cautious, but something deeper, more intuitive, told her that this was just the beginning. The next day, she arrived at work early. Before starting her routine, she sat beside Lucas and began, speaking softly. "Good morning, Mr. Montgomery. I don't know if you can hear me, but I want you to know that we're here. Lily and I know I shouldn't let her come, but she has this special gift of bringing light to any room. And yesterday you gave us a sign, didn't you?" As she spoke, she began organizing the morning medications. Suddenly, she noticed something different. A single tear rolled down Lucas's face. Sophia froze for a moment, her heart pounding. This wasn't an involuntary reflex. It was a response. With trembling hands, she took a tissue and gently wiped his face. "It's okay," she whispered, her own voice choked with emotion. "We'll do this together, at your pace. I won't give up on you." The day unfolded with a different energy. Sophia kept her observations to herself, meticulously noting every little sign. She knew she needed to be prudent, to build a consistent record before sharing her suspicions with the medical team. In the afternoon, when Lily arrived with another drawing, Sophia watched with heightened attention. The girl excitedly talked about her day at school, and Sophia could have sworn she saw the corners of Lucas's mouth move slightly, as if he wanted to smile. "You know, Uncle Lucas," Lily said, placing her new drawing on the panel beside the bed, "my teacher said that sometimes people just need a special reason to wake up. And I think you have two reasons now, me and Mom." Sophia felt her heart tighten at her daughter's innocent words. As she organized the last tasks of the day, a growing certainty settled in her chest. Something was changing, and she would do everything in her power to help Lucas find his way back. The morning started differently than usual when the sound of high heels echoed through the penthouse hallway. Sophia was changing Lucas's sheets when Helen Vanderbilt, his fiancée, entered the room like a gust of icy wind, bringing with her an expensive perfume and a look of displeasure. "Who authorized all these childish decorations?" Helen asked, pointing to Lily's drawings discreetly pinned to the panel beside the bed. Sophia straightened her posture, maintaining the professional calm that years of experience had taught. "Her? Good morning, Miss Vanderbilt. They're just some visual stimuli that—" "Stimuli?" Helen interrupted with a dry laugh. "Please, don't come at me with these absurd theories. Lucas has been like this for almost 9 months. The best neurologists in the country have already said it's irreversible." Sophia felt a lump in her throat, remembering the movements she had witnessed in recent days. "With all due respect, ma'am, but I've noticed some signs that—" "Signs?" Helen stepped closer, her blue eyes flashing. "You're just a nurse, dear. Your job is to provide basic care, not to create false hope or turn this room into a daycare." At that moment, as if the universe wanted to prove something, Lucas's fingers visibly twitched. Helen, with her back to the bed, didn't notice, but Sophia saw it clearly. "Miss Vanderbilt, if you could just observe—" "Enough!" Helen cut her off again. "From now on, I want you to stick to your basic duties. No more drawings, stories, or any other fantasies you're feeding. And one more thing. I don't want children hanging around here." Sophia's heart ached at the thought of how sad Lily would be, but before she could respond, Margaret appeared at the door. "Helen, the lawyer is waiting in the library to discuss the documents," the housekeeper announced. "Great," Helen replied, adjusting her impeccable blazer. "And Margaret, please make sure these decorations are removed by today." As soon as Helen left, Sophia allowed a single tear to roll down her cheek. Margaret, still at the door, watched her with an enigmatic expression. "You know, Sophia," the housekeeper said, closing the door and stepping closer, "I've worked in this house for 20 years. I've seen Lucas grow up, become the man he is, and I can tell you one thing. He never truly loved Helen." Sophia looked at Margaret in surprise, who continued, "The engagement was more of a business arrangement than a love story. And since the accident, Helen has only been here 5 times, always more concerned with documents and meetings than with Lucas." "Margaret, Sophia hesitated, but decided to trust the housekeeper. "I've noticed some signs. Small movements, reactions. Just yesterday when my daughter—" "Your daughter?" Margaret raised an eyebrow. Sophia blushed. "I'm sorry. She sometimes comes after school. I know I shouldn't." To her surprise, Margaret smiled. "Ever since she started coming, Lucas's vitals have been more stable. I monitor all the reports, you know." "So you knew about Lily's visits?" "Of course I did. And I also know that for the first time in months, Lucas is showing signs of awareness. I'm not a doctor, but I've been working in care long enough to recognize significant changes." Sophia felt immense relief. "What should we do about Helen?" "For now, keep the drawings hidden in the drawer. When she's not here, which is almost always, you can leave them out. As for your daughter—" Margaret paused dramatically. "Let's just say I have an important meeting every afternoon in the library far from this room." Sophia smiled gratefully. Margaret walked to the door but turned around before leaving. "And Sophia, keep recording. Every little sign. Something tells me we're going to need that documentation soon." Alone again with Lucas, Sophia approached the bed. "I heard everything, didn't you? Don't worry, we're not giving up." In response, Lucas's fingers moved again, this time with more strength. Sophia gently took his hand, and for the first time, she felt a slight pressure in return. "That's right," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "We're in this together." The rest of the afternoon passed with a new energy. Sophia kept the drawings hidden, but continued talking to Lucas, telling him about her day, about Lily, about her hopes. And with every word, small signs confirmed what her heart already knew. Lucas was fighting to come back. The following weeks brought a routine of caution and expectation. Sophia, with Margaret's silent support, continued meticulously documenting every sign of Lucas's progress. Lily's visits, now carefully timed to avoid unwanted encounters, became a highlight, not just for the girl, but visibly for Lucas as well. One particularly busy afternoon, Lily arrived with her eyes shining with excitement. Mom, today at school we learned about the nervous system." The teacher said the brain is like a big computer that controls everything in the body. Sophia smiled, helping her daughter settle into the chair next to Lucas's bed. That's true, sweetheart. What else did you learn? She said that sometimes, when the brain gets hurt, it needs time to heal, like when the school computer broke and took a while to work again, Lily explained, looking at Lucas with a mix of curiosity and affection. Uncle Lucas's brain is healing, isn't it? Sophia felt a lump in her throat. Yes, my love, we believe so. Can I tell him what I learned? Maybe it will help his brain heal faster. Of course you can, Sophia replied, watching Lucas's reactions closely. Lily moved closer to the bed and began explaining in her childlike words everything she had learned about the brain and the nervous system. As she spoke, she gestured animatedly, occasionally gently touching Lucas's hand to emphasize a point. It was during one of these enthusiastic explanations that it happened. Lucas's fingers moved, not just a slight tremor, but a clear and intentional movement, as if trying to squeeze Lily's hand back. The girl froze for a second, her eyes widening. Mom! Mom! Did you see? Uncle Lucas squeezed my hand. Sophia quickly approached, her heart racing. Are you sure, Lily? Absolutely, it was like he wanted to say hi. Sophia took Lucas's hand, feeling a light but undeniable pressure. Mr. Montgomery, Lucas, can you hear me? If you can, try squeezing my hand again. Seconds that felt like an eternity passed. Then slowly Lucas's fingers closed around Sophia's. Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. That's it, Lucas. We're here. You're doing so well. Lily, caught up in the emotion of the moment, began jumping for joy. Uncle Lucas is waking up. He's going to be okay. Sophia hugged her daughter, trying to contain her own emotions. Calm down, sweetheart. It's a big step, but we still have a long way to go. At that moment, the door opened and Margaret entered, alarmed by the noise. What's going on here? Sophia, still holding Lucas's hand, explained the situation. Margaret approached, observing carefully. This is extraordinary, the housekeeper murmured. We need to inform the medical team immediately. Wait, Sophia hesitated. What about Helen? She made it clear she doesn't want... Margaret furrowed her brow, thoughtful. You're right. We need to be strategic about this. Keep documenting everything, Sophia. I'll talk to Dr. Mitchell, the family's trusted neurologist. He's always been more open to recovery possibilities. As the two women spoke, Lily continued, excitedly talking to Lucas, sharing all the plans she had for when he woke up for real. And then Uncle Lucas will be able to go to the park, and I'll show you how I can swing around 3 times without getting dizzy, the girl chattered. To the astonishment of everyone in the room, a soft, almost imperceptible sound escaped Lucas's lips. It wasn't a formed word, but a clear murmur as if he were trying to respond. The silence that followed was heavy with emotion and anticipation. Sophia and Margaret exchanged astonished glances, while Lily, with the innocence of her age, simply smiled and said, See, Mum, Uncle Lucas wants to go to the park too. Margaret was the first to regain her composure. Sophia, I need you to document all of this in detail. I'll call Dr. Mitchell right away. Lily, sweetheart, you did an amazing job today. How about we go to the kitchen and get a special hot chocolate to celebrate? As Margaret led Lily away, casting a meaningful look at Sophia, the nurse found herself alone with Lucas, her mind swirling with the possibilities and challenges ahead. Lucas, she said softly, still holding his hand, I know you're in there. We're all here for you. Keep fighting, okay? We'll get through this together. And as if to confirm her words, Lucas squeezed her hand once more, a simple gesture that carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken promises. The days that followed were a mix of hope and caution. Dr. Mitchell, after being informed of Lucas's progress, conducted a series of discreet tests, always during the times when Helen was absent. The results, though preliminary, were promising. It's incredible, Dr. Mitchell said to Sophia and Margaret as they reviewed the latest tests in the mansion's library. There's significantly more brain activity than in previous months. Lucas is undoubtedly responding to external stimuli. Sophia felt a wave of relief and validation. So we weren't imagining things. Not at all, the doctor smiled. In fact, your dedication and your daughter's presence seem to have been important catalysts in this recovery process. Margaret, ever practical, interjected, "And what's the next step, doctor?" "Well, typically I would recommend a full rehabilitation team, intensive therapies." He paused, his face turning serious. "But we have to consider the delicate situation with Miss Vanderbilt." Sophia and Margaret exchanged worried glances. Helen had become increasingly insistent in her belief that Lucas would not recover, even going so far as to discuss legal options to take full control of his business affairs. "We can't simply ignore her wishes. She is his fiancée, after all," Sophia argued, though reluctantly. Dr. Mitchell sighed. "Technically, Helen has no legal authority over Lucas's medical decisions. That right still belongs to his parents, who have been traveling the world for months, practically unreachable," Margaret added, frustrated. "Exactly," the doctor agreed. "For now, I suggest we continue with this discreet approach. Sophia, keep up the excellent work you've been doing. I'll prescribe some additional stimulation exercises you can incorporate into the routine. Margaret, if you can continue providing us cover..." The housekeeper nodded firmly. "You can count on me, doctor." As they discussed the details of the new care plan, Sophia couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and apprehension. She was thrilled with Lucas's progress, but feared the complications that might arise. Back in Lucas's room, Sophia found Lily sitting on the edge of the bed, reading aloud one of her favorite books. The scene warmed her heart. And then the princess realized she didn't need a prince to save her. She could be strong on her own, Lily read enthusiastically. Sophia noticed a slight movement in Lucas's lips, as if he were trying to smile. These small signs had become more frequent in recent days. "Hi, Mom," Lily greeted cheerfully. "I was telling Uncle Lucas about my new book. The teacher said reading aloud helps people feel better." Sophia smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. "Your teacher is right, sweetheart. I'm sure Uncle Lucas is loving the story." At that moment, the sound of the elevator announced an unexpected arrival. Sophia froze, recognizing the familiar click of high heels. "Quick, Lily, I need you to hide in the closet," Sophia whispered urgently, guiding her daughter to the large wardrobe in the corner of the room. "Stay quiet, no matter what you hear, okay?" She had barely closed the closet door when Helen entered the room, her cold gaze sweeping the space. "Sophia," she greeted curtly, "I hope you've been following my instructions to the letter." Sophia forced a professional smile. "Of course, Miss Vanderbilt. Basic care is being maintained according to protocol." Helen approached the bed, observing Lucas with an expression that was hard to decipher. "You know, sometimes I wonder if it wouldn't be more merciful to let him go." Sophia felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean, ma'am?" "Oh, you know," Helen continued, running her fingers idly over the bedspread. "All these machines, medications, it must be exhausting for his body. Perhaps it's time to consider more definitive options." Sophia's heart raced. She knew she had to choose her words carefully. "With all due respect, Miss Vanderbilt, those decisions are up to the doctors and Mr. Montgomery's family." Helen turned to her, her eyes flashing. "I am his family, Sophia, and soon I'll have the legal authority to make those decisions." Before Sophia could respond, a muffled sound came from the closet. Helen frowned. "What was that?" "Probably just the wind against the windows," Sophia replied quickly. "They sometimes make noise." Helen seemed to accept the explanation, but her gaze remained suspicious. "Well, I just stopped by to check on things. Remember what we talked about, Sophia. No foolish hopes." As soon as Helen left, Sophia rushed to the closet, freeing a frightened Lily. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, it's all right now." "Mum," Lily whispered, tears in her eyes, "why does that lady want to hurt Uncle Lucas?" Sophia hugged her daughter tightly, her own heart heavy with the implications of what she had just heard. "She doesn't want to hurt him, love. She just doesn't understand that he's getting better." Looking at Lucas in bed, Sophia made a silent promise. She would do everything in her power to protect him, not just from his current condition, but from the threats that seemed to be forming on the horizon. The New York autumn painted the garden trees in shades of gold and red, a stark contrast to the tension that hung inside the Montgomery mansion. 2 weeks had passed since Helen's unexpected visit, and Sophia found herself in a race against time to help Lucas before irreversible decisions were made. That morning, while performing Lucas's physical therapy exercises, Sophia was surprised by an unexpected visitor. Anthony Montgomery, Lucas's father, entered the room with heavy steps, his face marked by wrinkles of worry and exhaustion from a long journey. "Good morning," he greeted in a hoarse voice. "You must be Sophia, the new nurse." Sophia nodded, surprised by the sudden arrival. "Yes, sir, it's a pleasure to meet you." Anthony approached the bed, looking at his son with a mix of sadness and hope. "Margaret called me. She said there were developments." Hesitant, Sophia glanced at the door, making sure they were alone. "Mr. Montgomery, over the past few months, we've observed significant signs of improvement in Lucas. Small movements, reactions to stimuli." The older man's eyes widened. "But the doctors said it was impossible." "Medicine doesn't always have all the answers," Sophia replied gently. "Dr. Mitchell conducted some recent tests that confirm increased brain activity." Anthony sat heavily in the chair beside the bed, absorbing the information. "Why weren't we informed earlier?" Sophia took a deep breath, knowing she was treading on delicate ground. "There were complications. Miss Vanderbilt has been quite emphatic in her belief that Lucas won't recover." Anthony's face twisted in anger. "Helen, I knew she was up to something. Over the past few weeks, she's been pressuring me to sign documents giving her control over Lucas's business." "Mr. Montgomery," Sophia said, choosing her words carefully, "there's something else you need to know. During Helen's last visit, I overheard her suggesting that it might be time to consider more definitive options for Lucas's situation." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with dark implications. Anthony stood abruptly, walking to the window. When he turned, his eyes shone with determination. "This ends now," he declared. "Sophia, I need you to tell me everything. Every detail, every bit of progress, no matter how small." For the next hour, Sophia meticulously recounted every observation, every slight improvement Lucas had made. She spoke about Lily's visits, about how the girl's presence seemed to elicit stronger responses from Lucas. Anthony listened intently, occasionally asking questions or seeking clarification. When Sophia finished, he seemed to have aged and rejuvenated all at once. The weight of worry mingled with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Sophia," he finally said, "I have no words to express my gratitude. You not only cared for my son, but fought for him when everyone else seemed to have given up." At that moment, as if to confirm everything that had been said, Lucas moved his hand, his fingers reaching toward his father. Anthony, tears in his eyes, held his son's hand. "I'm here. My boy," he whispered. "Dad is here and I'll take care of everything." Sophia watched the scene, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. She knew a battle had been won, but the war was far from over. "What do we do now?" she asked softly. Anthony straightened up, a new energy radiating from him. "First, I'll call a meeting with the entire medical team. I want Dr. Mitchell and the best neurological rehabilitation specialists in the country here by the end of the week." He paused, his gaze hardening. "As for Helen, I'll handle that personally. She severely underestimated a father's determination to protect his son." Sophia nodded, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Finally, Lucas would have the support and resources he needed for his recovery. "There's one more thing," she said hesitantly. "My daughter, Lily. She's been an important part of Lucas's progress. I'd like your permission to keep bringing her here." Anthony's face softened. "Sophia, after all you've done, your daughter is more than welcome. In fact, I'd like to meet her. Perhaps she can teach us a thing or two about hope and perseverance." As they made plans for the next steps, Sophia couldn't help but glance at Lucas. For the first time in months, she saw an unmistakable smile on his lips. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. The journey would be long and challenging, but now they had something that once seemed impossible, a real chance to bring Lucas back. And Sophia was determined to stand by him every step of the way. The hum of voices and the sound of equipment being moved filled Lucas's room. A week had passed since Anthony Montgomery's arrival, and the mansion now buzzed with the activity of a specialized medical team. Sophia watched, with a mix of relief and apprehension, as Dr. Mitchell coordinated the installation of new monitoring and rehabilitation equipment. Beside her, Anthony was animatedly discussing with Dr. Camille Preston, a renowned neurological rehabilitation specialist. "The signs are promising," Dr. Camille explained, pointing to the latest imaging scans. "Lucas's brain activity shows patterns consistent with a minimally conscious state, possibly transitioning to a higher level of awareness." Anthony nodded, his eyes shining with hope. "And what are the next steps?" "We will start an intensive multisensory stimulation program," replied the doctor, combining physical, occupational, and speech therapy. "But," she paused, looking meaningfully at Sophia, "the emotional component is equally crucial." Sophia felt all eyes turned to her. Dr. Mitchell smiled encouragingly. "Sophia, your approach with Lucas, especially including your daughter in the interactions, seems to have been an important catalyst. We would like to formally integrate that into the treatment plan." Sophia's heart raced. It was validation of everything she intuitively felt was right. "I would be honored to help in any way I can." As the team discussed the technical details, Sophia noticed a subtle movement in the bed. Lucas had slightly turned his head toward the voices, his eyes moving beneath closed eyelids. "Dr. Mitchell," she called softly, pointing to Lucas. The doctor quickly approached, examining Lucas's reactions. "Incredible," he murmured. "He's responding to auditory stimuli more noticeably." Dr. Camille joined the observation. "Lucas," she called in a clear voice, "if you can hear me, try to move your right hand." For a few seconds, nothing happened. The tension in the room was palpable. Then, slowly, Lucas's fingers twitched, forming a slight movement. A collective sigh of emotion filled the room. Anthony, with tears in his eyes, held his son's hand. "We're here, my boy. We're all here for you." Sophia felt a wave of emotion wash over her. It was more than medical progress. It was confirmation that Lucas was fighting to come back. The rest of the afternoon was a whirlwind of activity. Plans were made, schedules set, and a new routine began to take shape. Sophia found herself at the center of it all, not just as a nurse, but as a key piece in Lucas's recovery. When she finally had a moment to pause, Sophia retreated to the small terrace adjacent to the room. The sun was setting over New York, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. She took a deep breath, trying to process everything that had happened. "It's a lot to take in, isn't it?" Anthony's voice surprised her. Sophia turned, meeting the understanding gaze of Lucas's father. "Yes, sir, it's surreal." Anthony joined her, looking out at the city. "You know, Sophia, when I got the call from Margaret, I didn't know what to expect. Part of me feared it was just another false hope." He paused, his voice choked with emotion. "But seeing Lucas today, seeing how he responds, it's like a huge weight has been lifted from my chest." Sophia nodded, understanding the feeling perfectly. "We still have a long road ahead," she said softly. "Yes, we do," Anthony agreed. "But now we have something we didn't have before, a real chance. And much of that is thanks to you and your daughter." Sophia felt her cheeks flush. "We just did what we felt was right." Anthony smiled, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "And that's exactly why I want you to lead Lucas's daily care team. You have a connection with him that goes beyond traditional medicine." Sophia blinked, surprised. I don't know what to say." "So I say you'll accept," Anthony replied with a warm smile. "Lucas needs you, we all do." Before Sophia could respond, they heard a commotion coming from the room. They rushed back, only to find an unexpected scene. Lily, who had arrived quietly, with Margaret, was standing by Lucas's bed, holding his hand and speaking animatedly, and Lucas, to everyone's astonishment, had his eyes open, fixed on the girl. "Look, Mom," Lily exclaimed, beaming. "Uncle Lucas is awake." The medical team quickly sprang into action, performing checks and tests. But for Sophia, the world seemed to have stopped. Her eyes met Lucas's, and in that moment she saw something that filled her with overwhelming hope. recognition. It was only the beginning, she knew. There would be challenges, setbacks, and difficult moments ahead. But on that golden autumn afternoon, as the sun set over a New York transformed by hope, Sophia knew she had made the right choice. Lucas's journey back to life was just beginning, and she would be there by his side every step of the way. The days following Lucas's awakening were a roller coaster of emotions and challenges. The once quiet and somber room now pulsed with renewed energy. Rehabilitation equipment filled the previously empty spaces, and a steady stream of specialists came and went, each bringing a new perspective to Lucas's recovery. Sophia, now officially in charge of the daily care team, felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but it was a weight she carried with determination and hope. One particularly busy morning, as she helped Lucas with his physical therapy exercises, Sophia noticed a subtle change in his expression. His eyes, once vacant, now seemed focused, following her every move with intensity. "Lucas," she called softly, "are you feeling good today?" To her surprise, Lucas blinked deliberately once, then twice. It was the code they had established for yes. Sophia's heart raced. "Great," she smiled, feeling a wave of emotion. "Let's try something new today, okay?" Carefully, Sophia positioned a tablet in front of Lucas. On the screen, a simple virtual keyboard with large, spaced-out letters. "If you want to say something, try moving your hand to the letters. Don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. We have all the time in the world." The minutes that followed were tense. Lucas's hand trembled with effort, but slowly, letter by letter, he managed to form a word. THANKYOU. Sophia felt tears welling up in her eyes. "There's no need to thank us, Lucas. We're all here for you." At that moment, the door opened, and Lily rushed in, followed by Anthony. "Uncle Lucas," the girl exclaimed, stopping by the bed, "look what I brought for you." In her hands, a colorful drawing showed Lucas standing, smiling, surrounded by Sophia, Lily, and what appeared to be Anthony. Lucas looked at the drawing, and, to everyone's astonishment, a faint but undeniable smile appeared on his lips. Anthony, watching the scene, felt his heart tighten with emotion. "Son," he said, stepping closer, "you have no idea how good it is to see you like this." Lucas turned his attention back to the tablet, his fingers trembling as he formed another word, FATHER. The room was filled with palpable emotion. Anthony, with tears in his eyes, held his son's hand. "I'm here, my boy, and I'm not going anywhere." The moment was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Camille, who entered the room with an encouraging smile. "I see we're making significant progress," she exclaimed, glancing at the tablet. "Lucas, this is incredible. You're exceeding all our expectations." As the doctor performed a series of quick tests, Sophia noticed a shadow pass over Lucas's face. Something was bothering him. "What is it?" she asked softly. With visible effort, Lucas formed another word on the tablet, HELEN. The name hung in the air like a dark cloud. Anthony and Sophia exchanged worried glances. "Don't worry about her now, son," Anthony said, trying to sound reassuring. "Just focus on your recovery." But Lucas insisted, his eyes revealing a surprising determination. TRUTH. Sophia understood immediately. Lucas wanted to know the truth about Helen, about what had happened while he was unconscious. Anthony sighed deeply. "Maybe now isn't the time." "No," Sophia interjected gently. "He deserves to know. Lucas is stronger than we think." With a nod from Anthony, Sophia began to explain, as delicately as possible, about Helen's actions over the past few months. She spoke about her attempts to take control of the business, the pressure to let him go, and how she had practically abandoned Lucas during his recovery. Lucas listened in silence, his face a mask of contained emotions. When Sophia finished, he closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, there was a new resolve in them. With difficulty, he formed a sentence on the tablet, IWANTTOSEEHER. The tension in the room was palpable. Anthony seemed about to protest, but Dr. Camille intervened. If Lucas feels ready for this, it could be therapeutically beneficial. But we need to carefully manage this meeting. Sophia nodded, her mind already making plans to protect Lucas from any unnecessary stress. Let's do this the right way, at the right time, she said, looking directly at Lucas. He blinked once in agreement. As the team discussed the next steps, Lily approached Lucas, placing her drawing on the small table next to the bed. "Uncle Lucas," she said with the innocence of a child, "no matter what happens, you'll always be our hero." Lucas looked at the girl, then at Sophia, and finally at his father. In his eyes, a mix of gratitude, determination, and something more. Hope. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, bathing the room in a golden light. Sophia knew the days ahead would be challenging. The confrontation with Helen, the long journey of rehabilitation, the emotional and physical obstacles Lucas would still have to overcome. But looking at that scene, Lucas surrounded by people who truly cared, she felt a deep certainty. Together they would overcome any challenge. Lucas's recovery was far from over. In fact, in many ways it was just beginning. But with every word formed, every smile earned, every small progress, one thing became clear. The miracle everyone hoped for was happening, one day at a time. The day of the meeting between Lucas and Helen arrived, heavy with tension. Sophia had spent the week preparing Lucas emotionally and physically for the moment, while Anthony handled the legal and security aspects. Lucas's room, usually a space of healing and hope, seemed to have transformed into an arena. Sophia adjusted the position of the bed so Lucas was more upright, giving him a sense of control. Beside him, the tablet that had become his voice was charged and ready. "Remember," Sophia said softly, smoothing Lucas's hair, "you're in control. If at any point you want to end the conversation, just blink 3 times. I'll be here the whole time." Lucas nodded slightly, his eyes fixed on the door. The progress of the past few weeks was visible. He could now move his head more easily, and his facial expressions were more defined. The sound of high heels echoed down the hallway. Sophia felt her body tense, but kept a calm expression for Lucas. The door opened, and Helen entered. For a moment, she seemed surprised to see Lucas awake and alert. Her gaze quickly swept the room, noting the changes and new equipment. "Lucas, darling," she said, her honeyed voice contrasting with the coldness in her eyes. "It's wonderful to... Is he better?" Sophia watched Lucas's reactions closely. His eyes were fixed on Helen, his expression unreadable. Helen approached the bed, deliberately ignoring Sophia's presence. "It must have been so hard for you. I'm sorry I haven't been here more often, but you understand, don't you? Business, responsibilities." Lucas moved his hand toward the tablet. Helen seemed momentarily disconcerted by the device. With visible effort, Lucas began to form words. "Iknoweverything." Helen visibly paled. "What are you talking about, darling? The accident must have confused your memories." Lucas continued, his eyes now shining with an intensity Sophia had never seen. "Youtriedtopusmeaw. "Lucas, that's absurd," Helen exclaimed, her facade beginning to crack. "Everything I did was for your good, for our future." At that moment, Anthony entered the room, accompanied by a man Sophia recognized as the family's lawyer. "I think it's time to clarify a few things, Helen," said Anthony, his voice laced with a threatening calm. The lawyer stepped forward, holding a folder. "Miss Vanderbilt, we have evidence of your attempts to illegally take control of Mr. Montgomery's business, as well as your suggestions regarding his medical care." Helen looked around like a cornered animal. "You can't prove anything. Lucas and I were engaged. Everything I did was for our future." Lucas, with surprising determination, formed more words on his tablet. "NOMORE." Helen stared at Lucas, a mix of anger and desperation in her eyes. "You can't do this to me, after everything we've been through together." "I think that's enough," Sophia intervened, noticing the exhaustion beginning to show on Lucas. "Mr. Montgomery needs to rest now." Anthony nodded, gesturing to the lawyer. "Helen, you will be escorted out. I hope you understand that you are no longer welcome here." As Helen was led away, protesting and threatening lawsuits, Lucas closed his eyes, exhausted. Sophia was immediately by his side, checking his vitals. "You were incredible," she whispered. "Rest now." When everyone left, leaving only Sophia and Lucas in the room, he opened his eyes again. With effort, he formed one last sentence on the tablet: THANKYOUFORBELIEVING. Sophia felt tears in her eyes. "Always, Lucas. I will always believe in you." The silence that followed was no longer oppressive like it had been during the months of his coma. It was a silence filled with promises of a future that, though uncertain, seemed brighter than ever. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the New York sky with shades of pink and orange. Sophia knew the challenges were far from over. Lucas's recovery would be long and arduous. But in that moment, watching the man who had fought against all odds, she felt a deep certainty. Together they could overcome any obstacle. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in a long while, it was filled with hope. And, for Sophia, Lucas, and everyone around them, that hope was more precious than any treasure. The weeks following the confrontation with Helen were intense and transformative. With the external threat removed, Lucas could focus entirely on his recovery, and the progress, though slow, was steady and inspiring. On a sunny early spring morning, Sophia entered Lucas's room to find him already awake, his eyes fixed on the open window where a gentle breeze swayed the curtains. "Good morning," she smiled, approaching. "How are you feeling today?" Lucas turned his face toward her, a small smile forming on his lips. With movement still hesitant but more fluid than weeks before, he reached for the tablet, BETTER. WANTTOTRYSOMETHING. Sophia tilted her head, curious. "What do you have in mind?" SPEAK. Sophia's heart raced. The speech therapist had mentioned that Lucas was making significant progress, but until now he hadn't attempted to vocalize anything. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. "You don't have to rush." Lucas nodded, determination shining in his eyes. Sophia moved closer, gently holding his hand in support. Lucas closed his eyes for a moment, focusing. When he opened them again, his lips moved slowly, forming a word. "Sophia." The voice was hoarse, almost a whisper, but unmistakable. Sophia felt tears welling up in her eyes. "You did it," she exclaimed, lightly squeezing his hand. "Lucas, this is amazing." His smile widened, a look of triumph on his face. At that moment, the door opened and Lily rushed in, followed by Anthony. "Good morning, Uncle Lucas," the girl chimed, stopping by the bed. Lucas looked at Lily, then back at Sophia, a silent question in his eyes. Sophia nodded encouragingly. Lee, he managed to say, his voice a bit stronger this time. The room fell silent for a second before Lily let out a joyful scream. "Mom!" Uncle Lucas said my name. Anthony, who had been watching the scene from the doorway, stepped forward with watery eyes. "Son, this is extraordinary." Lucas turned his attention to his father, concentrating once more. Anthony couldn't hold back his tears, carefully embracing his son. "I'm so proud of you, my boy." The rest of the morning was a whirlwind of emotions and celebrations. The medical team was called to assess the new development, and everyone was impressed by Lucas's progress. In the afternoon, while Lucas rested after an intense therapy session, Sophia and Anthony talked on the terrace. "He's surpassing all expectations," Anthony remarked, looking out at the city below. "And much of that is thanks to you, Sophia." Sophia blushed slightly. "I just did my job. Lucas is the one putting in all the real effort." Anthony turned to her, his gaze serious. "No, Sophia. What you've done, what you're doing, goes far beyond just a job. You've brought hope back into our lives." He paused, seeming to weigh his next words. "You know, I've noticed the way Lucas looks at you. It's different, special." Sophia felt her heart race. She too had noticed the subtle changes in Lucas's behavior toward her, but she was afraid of misinterpreting or letting her own confused feelings interfere with her professional judgment. "Mr. Montgomery, "Please call me Anthony," he gently interrupted. "Sophia, I'm not here to judge or interfere. I just want you to know that no matter what happens, you're already part of this family." Anthony's words hung in the air, heavy, with meaning and possibilities. Sophia felt a mix of emotions, gratitude, apprehension, and something more she wasn't yet ready to name. Back in the room, they found Lucas awake, his gaze immediately locking onto Sophia. There was something new in his eyes, a depth of emotion that made her heart skip a beat. "So, Fia," he called, his voice still weak but full of meaning. She approached, holding his hand. "I'm here, Lucas." With effort, he formed more words. "Thank you and for everything." Sophia felt tears welling up in her eyes again. "There's nothing to thank me for. We're in this together, remember?" Lucas nodded slightly, a gentle smile on his lips. In that moment, as they looked into each other's eyes, something silent but profound passed between them. An unspoken promise, a future full of possibilities. Anthony, observing the scene, smiled to himself. Lucas's recovery journey was far from over, but now there was a new energy in the air, a renewed hope that went beyond mere physical recovery. As the sun began to set, painting the room with golden hues, Sophia knew they were on the brink of something new and exciting. The future, once so uncertain, now shone with promises of joy, challenges, and above all, love. Summer arrived in New York, bringing with it a wave of heat and new possibilities. 6 months had passed since Lucas had uttered his first words, and the progress was remarkable. Now he could sit up in bed on his own, form short sentences, and even take a few steps with assistance. On that sunny December morning, Sophia entered the room to find Lucas already awake, a glimmer of determination in his eyes. "Good morning," she smiled, approaching. "You seem excited today." Lucas nodded, his voice still hoarse but stronger. "I want to try something new." Sophia raised an eyebrow, curious. "And what would that be?" "Garden," he replied, pointing to the window. "I want to go outside." Sophia's heart raced. It was a big step, but she knew how much it would mean to Lucas. "Are you sure? It will be a challenge." "I'm ready," he affirmed, his determination evident. With a smile, Sophia nodded. "Then let's make it happen." The next few hours were filled with intense preparation. The medical team was consulted, equipment was adjusted, and Anthony was informed of the plan. Lily, upon hearing the news, insisted on preparing a special picnic for the occasion. When everything was ready, Sophia helped Lucas sit in the specially adapted wheelchair. He was trembling slightly, a mix of anxiety and anticipation. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, kneeling to meet his eye level. Lucas met her gaze, a shy smile on his lips. "With you here, I always am." Sophia felt her heart skip a beat, but maintained her professional composure. "Let's go then. The world outside is waiting for you." Slowly they made their way to the elevator and then through the building's lobby. When the doors leading to the garden opened, Lucas closed his eyes, letting the sun touch his face for the first time in nearly 2 years. The garden of the mansion was an oasis of green amidst the concrete jungle of New York. Colorful flowers lined the stone paths, and a large centuries-old tree offered welcoming shade. "It's beautiful," Lucas murmured, his eyes tracing every detail. Sophia guided him to a spot under the tree, where Lily had already laid out a towel and arranged the picnic. Anthony was waiting there, a broad smile on his face. "Welcome." "Back to the world, son," he said, carefully embracing Lucas. With the help of Sophia and Anthony, Lucas was moved onto the towel, leaning back against the tree trunk. Lily immediately began showing off all the snacks she had prepared with the help of the cook. "Look, Uncle Lucas, I made star-shaped sandwiches just like in that story I read to you." Lucas smiled, picking up one of the sandwiches with still trembling hands. "Thank you, Lily, it's perfect." The lunch unfolded in an atmosphere of joy and celebration. Lucas savored every bite, every aroma, every sensation. For him, it was like rediscovering the world. At one point, when Lily and Anthony were distracted debating which dessert to serve first, Lucas turned to Sophia. "Sophia," he called softly. When she looked at him, she saw an intensity in his eyes that made her hold her breath. "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" she asked, her heart racing. Lucas took a deep breath, gathering courage. "You brought me back to life. Not just physically, but here," he pointed to his heart. "I think I'm..." At that moment, Lily came running back, interrupting the moment. "Mom, Uncle Lucas, look what I found." The girl held a dandelion in her hands. "Grandma always said that if you make a wish and blow, it comes true." Lucas smiled at the girl, then looked back at Sophia, a silent question in his eyes. Sophia nodded, understanding. "How about we make a wish together?" Lucas suggested. Lily agreed enthusiastically, holding the flower close. Lucas and Sophia leaned in, their faces close, and together they blew gently, sending the seeds floating into the air. In that moment, with the sun shining through the tree leaves, the dandelion seeds dancing in the wind and the warmth of each other's presence, both Lucas and Sophia felt they were on the brink of something new and wonderful. Anthony, watching the scene from a distance, smiled to himself. Lucas's recovery journey still had a long way to go, but now there was a new light guiding the way, a light of love, hope, and infinite possibilities. The weeks following the garden picnic brought a palpable change in the atmosphere of the Montgomery mansion. Lucas, invigorated by the outdoor experience, dedicated himself even more fervently to his rehabilitation. His determination was contagious, inspiring not only the medical team, but everyone around him. On a particularly pleasant afternoon, Sophia arrived at Lucas's room to find him standing, supported by the parallel bars installed for his exercises. Beads of sweat glistened on his forehead, silent witnesses to the effort he was making. "Lucas!" she exclaimed, surprised and proud. "You're standing on your own." He turned slowly, a tired but triumphant smile on his face. "I wanted to surprise you," he said, his voice still a bit breathless from the effort. Sophia approached, instinctively reaching out her hands to offer support. "This is amazing, but you shouldn't be doing this without supervision." Lucas chuckled softly, accepting her help. "Always looking out for me." Their eyes met, and for a moment the world seemed to slow down. Sophia felt her heart race, aware of the closeness between them, the warmth of Lucas's hands in hers. "It's my job," she replied softly, though both knew it had long since become more than that. Lucas took a deep breath as if gathering courage. "Sophia, I need to tell you something." Before he could continue, they were interrupted by Lily's excited arrival. "Mom, Uncle Lucas, look what I..." The girl stopped abruptly, her eyes widening, as she saw Lucas standing. "Wow, Uncle Lucas, you're walking." The moment between Sophia and Lucas faded, but something had shifted, an electric tension lingering in the air between them. The following hours were filled with celebrations. Anthony was called, the medical team made enthusiastic assessments, and even Margaret allowed herself a rare, genuine smile of happiness. Later, when the commotion had died down and Lucas was resting in his bed, Sophia found a moment to speak with him privately. "You wanted to tell me something earlier," she began hesitantly, sitting on the edge of the bed. Lucas nodded, his eyes fixed on hers with an intensity that made her heart skip. "Sophia, I don't know how to say this." She waited patiently, giving him time to find the words. "Since I woke up," he continued, his voice gaining strength, "you've been my anchor, my light, not just as a nurse, but as everything." Sophia felt tears forming in her eyes, but let Lucas continue. "I know it might seem crazy, that maybe it's just gratitude mixed up with something more, but..." He paused, taking a deep breath. "Sophia, I think I'm in love with you." The silence that followed was deafening. Sophia felt her heart pounding so hard she was sure Lucas could hear it. "Lucas, she began, her voice trembling slightly. "This is complicated. I'm your nurse. There are ethical concerns, your recovery." "I know," he interrupted gently. "Believe me, I've thought about all of that. But I can't deny what I feel. And I think you feel something too." Sophia closed her eyes for a moment, letting the emotions she had repressed for so long rise to the surface. When she opened them again, she saw Lucas looking at her with a mix of hope and vulnerability that melted her last defenses. "You're right," she finally admitted. "I feel something too. Something strong. Something deep." "But Lucas, we have to—" "Be careful. Your recovery comes first." Lucas smiled, reaching out to gently touch her face. "My recovery and you are the same thing to me, Sophia. You give me strength, make me want to be better, to fight harder." Tears streamed freely down Sophia's face now. "What do we do then?" "We take it slow," Lucas replied, his voice full of affection. "One day at a time. We continue with the rehab, with the care, but knowing there's something more, something special between us." Sophia nodded, leaning in to rest her forehead against Lucas's. "One day at a time," she repeated softly. At that moment, with the sun setting outside and the room bathed in golden hues, Sophia and Lucas sealed their commitment with a gentle kiss, full of promises for the future. The journey ahead would still be long and challenging. There would be obstacles to overcome, both in Lucas's physical recovery and in navigating this new emotional territory. But now, with their hearts in sync, both felt they could face anything fate had in store for them. The months following Lucas and Sophia's confession were a delicate dance between the professional and the personal. While they kept their relationship discreet, focusing primarily on Lucas's recovery, it was impossible to deny the renewed energy that filled the Montgomery mansion. One March morning, Sophia arrived at Lucas's room to find him already standing, leaning on his new cane. His smile was radiant, full of pride and determination. "Good morning, my light," he greeted her, his voice now much stronger and clearer. Sophia couldn't contain the smile that spread across her face. "Good morning, Lucas. I see someone is eager today." "I have a surprise for you," he said, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "But first, I need your help to get there." Intrigued, Sophia offered her arm as additional support, and together they began a slow journey through the mansion's hallways. Lucas occasionally stopped to rest, but his determination was unwavering. Finally, they reached a door Sophia didn't recognize. Lucas gestured for her to open it, barely containing his excitement. When the door opened, Sophia was speechless. Before her was a fully equipped art studio, with easels, paints, brushes, and a stunning view of the city. "Lucas, this is—" she began, emotional. "For you," he completed softly. "Remember when you told me about your dream of painting again? Well, I thought maybe we could do that together, as part of my occupational therapy and, well, as something special for us." Sophia felt tears forming in her eyes. It had been years since she last touched a brush, having set aside her love for art to dedicate herself to nursing and raising Lily. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, turning to face him. Lucas smiled, gently caressing her face. "Say you'll paint with me. That you'll teach me to see the world through your eyes." At that moment, moved and grateful, Sophia leaned in and kissed Lucas softly. It was a kiss full of promises, shared dreams, and a future they could hardly wait to build together. The two. Sound of footsteps in the hallway made them quickly pull apart. Anthony appeared at the door, a knowing smile on his face. "I see the surprise was a success," he commented, looking around the studio. Sophia blushed slightly, but Lucas met his father's gaze with determination. "Dad, I think it's time we had a talk." Anthony nodded, his expression softening. "It's about time, son. Shall we go to the office?" The three made their way to Anthony's office, where Lucas, with Sophia's help, settled into a comfortable armchair. "Dad," Lucas began, his voice steady, "Sophia and I, well, we're in love." Anthony looked from one to the other, his face unreadable for a moment. Then, to their surprise, he smiled broadly. "Finally, you admit it," he exclaimed, laughing. "Margaret, and I had a bet on when you'd finally tell us." Sophia and Lucas exchanged surprised glances before joining in Anthony's laughter. "You have my blessing," Anthony continued, his tone growing more serious. "In fact, I can't think of anyone better for you, Lucas. Sophia has brought life back not just to you, but to this entire house. Anthony's words touched Sophia deeply. "Thank you, Mr. Montgomery, that means a lot to me." "Please call me Anthony," he insisted. "After all, you're already part of the family." The rest of the afternoon was spent in lively conversation about the future. Lucas talked about his plans to gradually return to business, with Sophia by his side for support. They discussed how to break the news to Lily, who already saw Lucas as part of the family. When evening fell, Sophia and Lucas found themselves back in the art studio, watching the city lights through the large window. "You know," Lucas said softly, embracing Sophia from behind, "when I was in a coma, there were moments when everything felt dark and hopeless. But then, somehow, I could feel your presence. It was like you were a light guiding me back." Sophia turned in his arms, looking deeply into his eyes. "And now we're here building a new path together." "A path full of color," Lucas smiled, glancing at the painting materials around them. That night, under the soft glow of moonlight, streaming through the window, Sophia and Lucas took the first steps on their new journey together. With brushes in hand, they began to paint not just on the canvas, but on their lives, creating a masterpiece of love, hope, and endless possibilities. Lucas's recovery still had a long way to go, but with Sophia by his side, every challenge seemed like an opportunity to grow together. And so, stroke by stroke, day by day, they began to color their future, a future bright and full of promise. The scent of fresh paint and freshly brewed coffee filled the art studio in the penthouse of the Montgomery mansion. Sophia, in a paint-splattered apron, was putting the finishing touches on a vibrant canvas depicting the New York skyline at sunset. Beside her, Lucas, seated in his adapted wheelchair, worked carefully on his own painting, his tongue slightly out in concentration. "How's it going over there, artist?" Sophia asked affectionately, leaning over to see Lucas's work. He smiled, a bit shy. "Not as good as yours, but I'm getting better." Sophia kissed his cheek softly. "It's looking great. Remember what I always say? Art isn't about perfection, it's about expression," Lucas recited, laughing. At that moment, the studio door opened, and Lily rushed in, her eyes shining with excitement. "Mom, Uncle Lucas, guess what?" she exclaimed, practically jumping with joy. "What is it, sweetheart?" Sophia asked, wiping her hands on a cloth. "The teacher loved my drawing of our family. She said I can display it at the school art fair." Lucas smiled broadly. "That's wonderful, Lily. We're so proud of you." Sophia hugged her daughter, her heart overflowing with love. Over the past few months, since she and Lucas had made their relationship official, Lily had blossomed with the new family dynamic. "How about we celebrate?" Lucas suggested. "We can have a picnic in the garden, like that special day." Lily's eyes lit up even more. "Yes, please, can I invite Grandpa Anthony too?" "Of course you can, sweetheart," Sophia replied, exchanging a knowing glance with Lucas. As Lily ran off to find Anthony, Sophia helped Lucas get up from the chair. His movements were becoming more fluid, the result of months of intensive therapy and unwavering determination. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Lucas asked, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Sophia smiled, understanding immediately. "That today might be the perfect day to tell them?" Lucas nodded, pulling her closer. "I think we've waited long enough." Sophia touched the small bulge in her pocket, where a delicate velvet box rested. The night before, Lucas had surprised her with an intimate and emotional marriage proposal, right there in the studio, surrounded by their artistic creations. The garden picnic was a burst of joy and laughter. Lily entertained everyone with stories from school, while Anthony shared anecdotes from his youth. Sophia watched the scene with a full heart, amazed at how her life had changed over the past 2 years. When dessert was served, a strawberry cake specially made by Margaret, Lucas gave Sophia a meaningful look. She nodded, feeling butterflies in her stomach. "Family," Lucas began, his voice steady and clear, "Sophia and I have an announcement to make." All eyes turned to them, expectant. "Last night," he continued, taking Sophia's hand, "I asked Sophia to marry me, and she said yes." For a moment there was silence, then an explosion of joy. Lily was the first to react, jumping up and hugging them both at the same time. "I knew it, I knew it!" she cried, tears of happiness in her eyes. "Now Uncle Lucas is going to be my real dad." Anthony stood up, his eyes welling up. "My dears," he said, hugging the couple, "I couldn't be happier. You deserve all the happiness in the world." The impromptu celebration lasted through the afternoon. Margaret appeared with a bottle of champagne, and even Dr. Mitchell was called to join the festivities. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange, Sophia and Lucas stepped away from the group, finding a moment of privacy under the large tree. "Are you happy?" Lucas asked, caressing Sophia's face. She smiled, tears of joy shining in her eyes. "More than I ever imagined possible." "You know," Lucas reflected, looking at the family gathered in the distance, "when I had the accident, I thought my life was over. But now I see it was just the beginning of something wonderful." Sophia rested her head on his shoulder. "Life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it?" Lucas nodded, pulling her into a gentle kiss. "And our story is just beginning." As they kissed under the evening sky with the sound of their family's laughter in the background, Sophia and Lucas knew that no matter what challenges the future brought, they would face them together, with love, courage, and the certainty that miracles happen when you least expect them. The big day finally arrived. The Montgomery mansion, usually an oasis of tranquility amidst the chaos of New York, was buzzing with activity. White and gold flowers decorated every corner, and the scent of fresh roses filled the air. Sophia was in her old room, now transformed into a luxurious dressing room. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the delicate veil over her carefully styled hair. "Mom, you look beautiful," Lily exclaimed, her eyes shining with admiration. The girl, now 8 years old, looked stunning in her bridesmaid dress. Sophia smiled at her daughter through the mirror. "Thank you, my love. You look wonderful too." At that moment, Margaret entered the room, her eyes welling up as she saw Sophia. "Oh, darling, Lucas is going to be speechless." The three shared a moment of silent emotion, each reflecting on the incredible journey that had brought them there. On the other side of the mansion, Lucas was getting ready with the help of Anthony and Dr. Mitchell. Dressed in an elegant tuxedo, he practiced standing without his cane, determined to walk to the altar on his own. "Son," Anthony said, adjusting Lucas's tie, "I'm so proud of you, not just for your recovery, but for finding true love." Lucas hugged his father, moved. "Thank you, Dad, for everything." Dr. Mitchell, observing the scene, couldn't help but comment, "You know, Lucas, in all my years of medicine, I've never seen a recovery as extraordinary as yours, and I'm sure Sophia and Lily's love was the best medicine." The mansion's gardens had been transformed into a fairy tale setting. A pathway of white petals led to a beautiful flower-covered arch, beneath which Lucas waited, his heart racing with anticipation. When the music began, all the guests turned. Lily came first, scattering petals and smiling radiantly. And then, Sophia appeared. Lucas felt his breath catch. She was stunning in a white dress that flowed like water, accentuating her curves. But what truly captured him was her smile, bright, full of love and promises. With slow but steady steps, Lucas walked to meet her halfway, determined to make this final journey side by side. When their hands met, both felt an electric current run through their bodies. The celebrants' words seemed distant as they lost themselves in each other's eyes, reliving every moment that had brought them there. "Lucas," Sophia began her vows, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "When we first met, I was just a nurse doing my job. I never imagined I would be caring not just for your body, but for my heart. You taught me about resilience, about hope, and about the transformative power of love. I promise to stand by your side through every step of this journey, celebrating our victories and facing our challenges together. I love you today and forever." Lucas took a deep breath, tears glistening in his eyes. "Sophia, my light, you brought me back to life in every possible way. When the world was darkness, you were my beacon. Your strength, your love, and your dedication inspire me every day to be a better person. I promise to love you and Lily with Iki, every fiber of my being, to build a life of joy and adventures together, and to always remember that our love is the greatest miracle of all." There wasn't a dry eye among the guests as they exchanged rings and were declared husband and wife. The kiss that sealed their union was deep and emotional, a silent promise of a bright future. The reception that followed was a celebration of love, family, and new beginnings. Lucas and Sophia danced their first dance as a couple, moving in perfect sync, as if they had been made for each other. Later, as the party continued around them, the couple found a moment of tranquility in the same spot where, not long ago, Lucas had taken his first steps after the accident. "Can you believe everything we've been through to get here?" Sophia asked, nestled in Lucas's arms. He smiled, gently kissing her forehead. "Every moment was worth it, because it brought me to you." Looking out at the party, they saw Lily dancing joyfully with Anthony, Margaret smiling more than ever, and all their loved ones celebrating their love. "You know," Lucas reflected, "I think I finally understand the true meaning of miracle. It's not something that happens to us, but something we create together with love, perseverance, and faith." Sophia nodded, her heart overflowing with happiness. "And this is just the beginning of our miracle." As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold, Lucas and Sophia sealed their new beginning with a passionate kiss. The journey that had started under such dramatic circumstances now opened up to a future full of promise, love, and infinite possibilities. And so, under the starry sky of New York, surrounded by the love of their family and friends, Lucas and Sophia took the first step into their new life together, ready to face any challenge, celebrate every victory, and create their own miracle, day by day, for all eternity. 5 years had passed since Sophia and Lucas's wedding. The Montgomery mansion, once a symbol of isolation and tragedy, now overflowed with life and joy. On a sunny Sunday morning, the garden was once again prepared for a celebration. Colorful, balloons danced in the gentle breeze, and a cheerful banner announced, "Happy 13th birthday, Lily." Sophia, with a radiant smile, was putting the final touches on the birthday cake in the kitchen. Her slightly rounded belly hinted at the imminent arrival of the newest member of the Montgomery family. "Need any help there, love?" Lucas's voice sounded behind her. He moved with ease now, using a cane only on rare occasions. Sophia turned, her face lighting up as she saw her husband. "Everything is under control. How's our birthday girl?" Lucas laughed. "Eager. She's in the art studio putting the finishing touches on some mysterious project." In recent years, Lily had inherited her mother's artistic talent, spending hours in the studio that had once been Sophia and Lucas's sanctuary. The sound of hurried footsteps interrupted the conversation, and Anthony entered the kitchen, carrying a stack of presents. "Where do I put these?" he asked, his face flushed with excitement. The role of grandfather suited him perfectly. "On the garden table, Dad," Lucas replied, grabbing some of the packages to help. As the men walked out, Margaret entered, her gaze softening as she saw Sophia. "How are you feeling, dear?" Sophia gently stroked her belly. "Wonderfully well." "This little miracle is eager to join the party." Margaret smiled, remembering how much had changed. "Who would have thought a few years ago that we'd be here, celebrating not just Lily's birthday but an entire family?" The two women shared a moment of quiet reflection, grateful for every step of the journey that had brought them there. The party was soon in full swing. Friends from Lily's school, Lucas's co-workers, and the medical team that had become part of the family over the years, all were present to celebrate. Amid the festivities, Lily called for everyone's attention. With a shy smile, she revealed her secret project, a large painting depicting the entire family, including the baby on the way. "It's for you," she said, looking at Sophia and Lucas, "to thank you for being the best parents I could ever wish for." There wasn't a dry eye as the family embraced, moved by Lily's gesture of love. Later, when most of the guests had left, Sophia and Lucas found a moment of peace under the same tree where years ago they had shared their first moments together. Looking back, Lucas reflected, his hand intertwined with Sophia's, "It's hard to believe everything we've been through." Sophia nodded, leaning against him. Every challenge, every tear, every moment of doubt. It was all worth it to get us. Here, Lucas placed his hand on Sophia's belly, feeling a slight movement. And our journey is far from over. You know what moves me the most? Sophia asked, her eyes shining. It's that our story, our miracle, has inspired so many others. Remember that foundation we started? Lucas smiled, recalling the project they had launched to help recovering patients and their families. The Awakening Project. Yes, it's amazing. To see how many lives we've touched. At that moment, Lily approached, followed closely by Anthony and Margaret. The family gathered under the tree, each silently reflecting on the journey that had brought them there. You know, Anthony said, breaking the silence, I think I've come to understand the true meaning of miracle. It's not something that just happens, but something we build together, with love, perseverance, and faith. Everyone nodded, feeling the weight and truth of those words. As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold, the Montgomery family remained united, their hearts full of gratitude and hope. The journey that had begun under such dramatic circumstances had transformed into a story of love, resilience, and togetherness. The morning sun flooded the office of the Awakening Project, illuminating a wall filled with photographs and recovery stories. At the center, a large frame displayed Sophia and Lucas on the day of the project's official launch over a decade ago. Marina Montgomery, 17 years old, was putting the final touches on the presentation for the annual Neurological Rehabilitation Conference. The youngest daughter of Sophia and Lucas, she had inherited not only the family's artistic talent, but also their unwavering determination. "Mom," she called, "can you take a look at this?" Sophia walked in, her hair now partially grey, but her eyes still shining with the same passion as always. "Let me see." The presentation was a heartfelt tribute to the journey of the Awakening Project, hundreds of patient stories like Lucas's, who found hope when all seemed lost. Impressive statistics showcased the impact of the Montgomery family's work in neurological rehabilitation. "It's perfect," Sophia smiled, kissing her daughter's forehead. At that moment, Lucas entered the office. His walk, though still aided by a cane, was steady and confident. The years had been kind to him, leaving only subtle marks of his recovery journey. "Are the girls ready for the trip?" he asked, hugging Sophia from behind. Marina rolled her eyes. "Dad, I'm 17. I'm not a little girl anymore." Lily, now 23 and a doctor in training, chose that moment to walk in. Did someone say trip? The Montgomery family was about to embark on a significant expedition, an international mission for the Awakening Project to establish a rehabilitation center in an underserved region of Latin America. "Everything's ready," Lily confirmed, her energy reminiscent of Sophia's in her younger days. "The equipment has already been shipped, and the local team is waiting for us." Lucas looked at Sophia, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. 15 years of marriage, and the love between them remained as strong as on the first day. "Something tells me this will be our most important mission yet," he remarked, gently squeezing Sophia's hand. Marina watched her parents, feeling the weight of the family legacy. The Awakening Project wasn't just a job for them, it was a life mission, born from their own journey of overcoming adversity. "Let's make a difference," Marina said, her voice filled with determination. As they packed their bags, no one could have imagined the surprises and challenges awaiting them on this new mission. The Montgomery legacy was about to gain an exciting new chapter. The only certainty was the love that united them, the strength that drove them, and the hope that had always guided them through every challenge. The trip to the mountainous region of Mexico began surrounded by expectations and a sense of renewal. The rehabilitation center would be built in an area deeply affected by internal conflicts, where many victims of neurological trauma were left without adequate care. During the flight, Marina couldn't take her eyes off an old dossier she had found in the office. It contained documents related to Lucas's accident, some details that had never been fully clarified. "Dad," she called softly, "can I ask you something?" Lucas, who was dozing next to Sophia, opened his eyes. "Of course, sweetheart. What is it?" "There's always been something strange about your accident, hasn't there?" something that was never fully explained. A heavy silence filled the few meters around them. Lily, seated ahead, turned with interest. Sophia exchanged a meaningful look with Lucas. There were secrets that had been kept protected for years to preserve the family's peace. "It's not always healthy to dig up the past," Lucas replied gently. "What matters is what we build afterward." But Marina was not easily dissuaded. She had inherited her parents' determination and an investigative talent that brought her closer to her doctor sister. When they arrived, the humid heat of the region enveloped them. The small village where they would set up the rehabilitation center seemed frozen in time, surrounded by green mountains and an almost palpable silence. The local representative, a man named Charles, greeted them with a warm smile. "Welcome," he said in fluent Spanish. "We've been looking forward to your arrival." As they discussed the final details of the project, Marina couldn't take her eyes off Charles. There was something in his expression, a detail she couldn't quite place. That evening, during dinner at the local inn, an envelope discreetly slipped near Marina. Intrigued, she opened it when everyone was distracted. Inside were some old photographs and a note in Spanish. Though she didn't fully master the language, Marina managed to understand important fragments. "Secret about the accident. Helen Vanderbilt. It's not what it seems." Her heart raced. This seemed to be the beginning of something that could change everything her family thought they knew about Lucas's past. "Dad," she called, her voice trembling slightly, "I think we need to talk." Lucas looked at her, something in his eyes, suggesting he might already know more than he let on. The night at the small inn seemed to carry ancient secrets, waiting to be revealed. And Marina knew she was about to unravel a mystery that could completely transform her family's history. What had started as a humanitarian mission was about to become something far more complex and dangerous than anyone could have imagined. Dawn brought a thick fog over the Mexican mountains. Marina woke before everyone, her hands still trembling, with the photographs and the mysterious note she had received the night before. Sitting on the inn's small terrace, she began carefully examining the documents. The photos showed Helen Vanderbilt at different moments, some seemingly taken without her knowledge. There was something in her gaze that suggested a complexity beyond what the family had always assumed. "Good morning," Charles's voice startled her. "Looks like you found something interesting." Marina quickly put the documents away. "Just reviewing some project papers," she lied, trying to sound casual. Charles smiled, but there was something in his gaze that sent a shiver down her spine. "Sometimes the secrets of the past have curious ways of resurfacing," he said enigmatically. At that moment, Lily joined them, her medical intuition immediately picking up on the tension. "Is something wrong?" she asked, her gaze shifting between Marina and Charles. Before they could respond, Lucas appeared, his presence immediately altering the atmosphere. "Good morning," he greeted, his tone neutral but his eyes alert. During breakfast, Marina watched her father. There was something different about him, a barely perceptible tension that didn't go unnoticed by her family. "Dad," she said softly when they were alone, "what really happened to you before the accident?" Lucas paused, his fork suspended in mid-air. "Marina, some stories are better left in the past." But Marina had inherited Sophia's determination. "Not this time," she insisted. "I found something. About Helen. About your accident." Sophia, who was nearby, stepped closer. Her eyes met Lucas's, a silent communication that spoke volumes. "Perhaps it's time," Sophia said softly, "to tell the whole truth." What followed was a revelation that would shake the foundations of the Montgomery family. Lucas began to tell a story that went far beyond what Marina and Lily had ever imagined, a web of lies, corporate betrayals, and a plan that had nearly cost him his life. "Helen wasn't just my fiancée," Lucas explained, his voice low and controlled. "She was part of a scheme to take control of the family business. The accident wasn't an accident. It was an attempt to eliminate me." The sisters were paralyzed. Charles, who had discreetly approached, confirmed with an almost imperceptible nod. "There's more," he said, pulling a flash drive from his pocket. "Documents that prove everything, but revealing this could be dangerous." Marina felt her heart race. This was much bigger than she had imagined. A conspiracy that went back years, with ramifications that could affect not only her family, but possibly an entire corporate network. "What are we going to do?" Lily asked, her medical training giving way to a potential lawyer. Lucas looked at Sophia, his eyes filled with love and determination. "What we've always done. Face it together." The humanitarian mission had turned into something far more complex, and the Montgomery family was about to unravel a mystery that would change everything they knew about their past. The only certainty was that, no matter what came next, they would stand united. The small Mexican town seemed to shrink around the Montgomery family, as if the secrets about to be revealed could alter the very geography around them. Charles led them to a discreet room at the back of the local town hall, away from prying eyes. The flash drive he held seemed to contain more than just documents. It seemed to carry the weight of a conspiracy that spanned decades. "What you need to understand," Charles began, his voice low and cautious, "is that Lucas's accident was just the tip of a much larger iceberg." The images projected on the computer revealed a complex web of corporate connections, shell companies, obscure financial transactions, and a network of influence that stretched across 3 continents. Marina, her analytical mind working at full speed, began to connect the dots. "This isn't just about your company, it's something much bigger." Lily, with her medical and legal training, noticed something different. These transactions, some, coincide with periods of regional conflicts. There's a pattern here. Lucas felt a shiver run down his spine. The revelations touched on long-dormant wounds. Sophia, always his anchor, held his hand firmly. "Helen was just a pawn," Charles explained, opening another file. "She was manipulated by a much more powerful group, an international consortium, that profited from instability and conflict." A photograph caught Marina's attention, a man in a dark suit, partially obscured but with a familiar face. "Who is he?" she asked, pointing. Charles hesitated for a moment. "Someone we thought had been dead for a long time. But the evidence suggests otherwise." The name on the document made Lucas catch his breath. Rodrigo Vanderbilt, Helena's father, presumed dead in a supposed helicopter accident years ago. "This is impossible," Lucas murmured. "I confirmed his death myself." Sophia narrowed her eyes. "Nothing is impossible when it comes to power and money." Marina was already typing furiously on her laptop, cross-referencing information. "I found something. There are records of recent financial transactions under the names of shell companies. The digital signature matches known patterns of Rodrigo's." Lily leaned in to look. "If this is true, it means he not only survived, but has been orchestrating everything all along." Charles pulled another document from an old folder. "There's more. Lucas's accident wasn't just an attempt to eliminate a corporate obstacle. It was part of a much larger plan to destabilize." The tension in the room was palpable. Each revelation seemed to peel back a new layer of a mystery that had been carefully kept secret for decades. "What do we do now?" Marina asked, her heart racing. Lucas looked at Sophia, then at his daughters. His voice, when he finally spoke, was calm and determined. "We hunt for the truth, no matter where it leads us." The humanitarian mission had turned into something far more dangerous, and the Montgomery family was about to enter a battle that would test the limits of their courage, intelligence, and love for one another. The hunt began now.